Hello, welcome to Not for Exam, and I am your host Sujit, and we are going to discuss general plane motion of a rigid body. In general plane motion of a rigid body, each particle of the rigid body moves in a particular plane and it does not leave its plane throughout the motion, and all these planes of different particles of the rigid body will be parallel to each other. Let's take a look at the given figure. A rod free to rotate about its point O, pivoted on a platform moving with velocity v0 vector. Let angular velocity of rod is omega vector, and position vector of point P at a distance r from point O is rpo vector with respect to point O. Therefore, velocity of point P Vp vector is equal to velocity of platform V0 vector plus velocity of point P with respect to the platform, that is Vpu vector. Also with respect to point O, point P is in pure rotation. Therefore, Vpu vector is equal to omega vector cross rpo vector. Therefore, it will be in the plane of Vo vector, since Vu vector is perpendicular to omega vector. Therefore, for each particle, Vp vector will be in the same plane always, and this plane will be perpendicular to omega vector. So this kind of motion is called plane motion of a rigid body, and for plane motion of a three-dimensional rigid body, all particles move in circular path with respect to axis of rotation. Plane of all these circles will be perpendicular with respect to the axis of rotation, and axis of rotation is moving with a velocity v0 vector which is perpendicular to the axis of rotation. This is the general plane motion of a rigid body, and this motion can be analyzed easily as a combination of translational motion of axis of rotation and pure rotation about the axis of rotation. And we are going to discuss free moving rigid body under general plane motion. We can understand that any line in a rigid body will rotate in the same way as any other line. Also, with respect to any point of the rigid body, any other point will have same angular displacement, same angular velocity and same angular acceleration. So this angular displacement, angular velocity and angular acceleration is unique for the rigid body. Also, for a rigid body under general plane motion, we can choose any axis perpendicular to the plane of motion passing through any point on the rigid body, and can analyze the motion as pure rotation about the axis and the translation motion of the axis of rotation. But any axis passing through any general point may move in a very complicated way, and its translation motion will be very difficult to analyze. But motion of center of mass of a free moving rigid body can be analyzed very easily, and so of the axis of rotation passing through the center of mass. Therefore, for a free moving rigid body under general plane motion, the motion can be analyzed easily as a combination of translation motion of axis of rotation passing through center of mass and pure rotational motion about this axis. Also, angular momentum of a rigid body in general plane motion will be in fixed direction, that is along the axis, which will be perpendicular to the plane of the motion. Therefore, the following results for torque and angular momentum are very useful in solving the problems. Angular momentum about a point O, LO vector is equal to angular momentum about center of mass plus angular momentum of center of mass about point O, that is R vector cross P vector. And also torque about point O is equal to torque about center of mass plus torque on center of mass with respect to point O, that will be R vector cross F external vector. Now take a look at the following examples. In this example, there is a sphere which is moving along the x-axis. Plane of motion is xy plane and its angular velocity is along the minus z axis. Since it is an example of general plane motion of a rigid body, therefore this motion can be translational motion of center of mass axis and pure rotational motion about center of mass axis. Let's see another example of a rod freely moving on a horizontal floor. Motion is in the horizontal plane, so angular velocity will be in the vertical direction. And the motion can be analyzed easily as a combination of pure translation motion of center of mass and pure rotational motion about center of mass. We are going to discuss kinetic energy of a free moving rigid body in general plane motion. Let's take a look at the given figure of a free moving rigid body in general plane motion having angular velocity omega perpendicular to the plane of motion, and let velocity of center of mass is vcm vector. Let component of position vector with respect to center of mass of ith particle perpendicular to center of mass axis is ri vector. Then velocity of ith particle with respect to center of mass axis or with respect to center of mass, both are same, is vi vector is equal to omega vector cross ri vector, which have the magnitude omega into ri. Therefore, velocity of ith particle with respect to point O will be equal to velocity of center of mass or velocity of center of mass axis plus velocity of ith particle with respect to center of mass axis. Now, kinetic energy of ith particle is equal to half mi into vi O square, that will be equal to half mi vcm vector plus vi vector dot vcm vector plus vi vector. Therefore, total kinetic energy will be sigma of kinetic energy of ith particle, that will be equal to half sigma mi vcm square plus sigma half mi vi square plus 2 vcm vector dot sigma mi into vi vector. Here last term in this expression is 0. Therefore, total kinetic energy will comes out to be half m vcm square plus sigma half mi ri square into omega square, that is half m vcm square plus half icm omega square. Therefore, total kinetic energy in general plane motion of the rigid body is equal to translational kinetic energy of center of mass plus pure rotational kinetic energy about center of mass axis. Let's see some examples related to above findings. In this example, a rod of mass m and length l is moving on a horizontal platform. Velocity of its center of mass is v and angular velocity of the rod is omega. Therefore, total kinetic energy is equal to translational kinetic energy of its center of mass and pure rotational kinetic energy about center of mass axis. That will be half mv square plus half ICM omega square. Let's see another example. A uniform solid sphere of mass m and radius r is rolling. Velocity of its center of mass is v and angular velocity is omega. Therefore, total kinetic energy is equal to translational kinetic energy of center of mass plus rotational kinetic energy about center of mass axis. That is half mv square plus half ICM into omega square. And we are going to talk about rolling motion. A simple case of rolling which we are going to discuss now is the general plane motion of a rigid body of circular cross section moving on a surface as shown in the figure. If point P of the rigid body, which is in contact with the point Q of the platform, is at rest with respect to point Q of the platform surface, then this is called pure rolling or rolling without slipping. So in pure rolling, velocity of point P Vp is equal to velocity of point Q Vq. Here Vp and Vq are components of velocity of point P and point Q along the tangent to the surface at the contact point. You can easily understand that component of velocities of point P and point Q along the normal will always be 0 for the rigid body to remain in the contact with the surface. And for rolling with forward slipping, Vp greater than Vq, and for rolling with backward slipping, Vp less than Vq. Now take a look at the given case of a rigid body having angular velocity omega, angular acceleration alpha. Velocity and acceleration of center of mass is v and a respectively, and velocity of the platform is vq. For the given case of clockwise omega, velocity of point P, that is Vp, will be equal to velocity of center of mass plus velocity with respect to center of mass, that will be equal to v minus r omega in this case, h for the given direction of omega. Now in this case, for pure rolling, Vp is equal to Vq, and if body is rolling on a stationary surface, example ground, then Vp will be equal to 0 or v is equal to r omega at any instant. Also, this relation should hold continuously, and this is possible when A is equal to R alpha. So, condition for pure rolling on a stationary surface is V is equal to R omega at any instant. Now, for pure rolling with forward slipping, Vp greater than Vq, and for stationary surface, that is Vq equal to 0, Vp greater than 0, or V greater than R omega. Let's take a look at the given figure of a case of rolling with forward slipping. If Vp greater than 0, then friction will act in backward direction, and due to friction, velocity v of center of mass decreases, and due to torque of friction, angular velocity omega increases. Finally, when linear velocity v dash becomes equal to r into final angular velocity omega dash, then relative velocity of contact point will be 0 with respect to surface, and pure rolling start and friction stop acting. And for rolling with backward slipping on a stationary surface, that is Vq equal to 0, Vp less than 0 or V less than R omega. In this case, friction will act in forward direction, which increases linear velocity V, and torque of friction decreases angular velocity omega until final linear velocity V dash becomes equal to R into final angular velocity omega dash. Then friction stops acting and pure rolling start. And if surface is smooth, friction is absent, then F net will be 0. So V remains constant, and for F net equal to 0, tau net about any point is equal to tau net about center of mass. So in this case, there will be no change in the state of translation motion or state of rotational motion, and V and omega remain same. We are going to discuss velocity and acceleration of different points in pure rolling. Let's take a look at the given figure of a rigid body in pure rolling moving along a straight line. For continuous pure rolling, V is equal to R omega and A is equal to R alpha. Velocity of any point on the body is velocity of center of mass plus velocity with respect to center of mass, and acceleration of any point will be acceleration of center of mass plus acceleration with respect to center of mass. Now we can see that from vector addition that velocity of point r is v plus r omega, that is 2v, and velocity of point q and s have magnitude v root 2. Also we can easily find velocity of any other point by vector addition. Also, acceleration of any point is equal to acceleration of center of mass plus acceleration with respect to center of mass, and by using vector addition we can easily find the acceleration of any point. Since acceleration of center of mass is a, and with respect to center of mass, acceleration has two components. One is tangential acceleration, that is r alpha, and other is centripetal acceleration, that is omega square r. Now by using vector addition we can find acceleration of point P, point Q, point R, or point S, or any other general point on the rigid body. Hello, welcome to Not for Exam, and I am your host Sujit, and we are going to talk about rolling on a horizontal ground. Since rolling motion with fixed direction of angular velocity is a kind of general plane motion, then all the concepts and results of general plane motion are useful in the rolling motion, which are as follows. Total kinetic energy is equal to translational kinetic energy of center of mass plus pure rotational kinetic energy with respect to center of mass axis, and net angular momentum of a system of particles about a point is equal to angular momentum with respect to center of mass plus angular momentum of center of mass with respect to point O. Net torque on a system of particles about point O is equal to net torque with respect to center of mass plus torque acting on center of mass with respect to point O. Net torque about center of mass is equal to rate of change of net angular momentum with respect to center of mass. Now let's take a look at the following example of rolling on a horizontal ground. A disk of mass m and radius r is placed on a rough surface of coefficient of friction mu with zero angular velocity and linear velocity v0. Due to relative slipping, kinetic friction mu mg starts acting, and so acceleration of center of mass is equal to F upon m, that is mu g, and torque of friction with respect to center of mass is equal to R into F, that will be equal to ICM into alpha. Also friction will act until pure rolling starts, and we want to find out the time when pure rolling starts, total length covered in this time, work done by friction, also linear velocity v, angular velocity omega, and final kinetic energy of the rigid body. Since tau cm is r into f, that is ICM into alpha, so alpha comes out to be 2 mu g upon r, and angular velocity after time t, omega is equal to alpha into t, that is 2 mu g upon r into t, and linear acceleration is mu g, and when pure rolling starts, v is equal to r omega, therefore v naught minus at is equal to v, or v naught minus mu gt is equal to r into 2 mu g upon r into t, and from here we get the time t when pure rolling starts, and that will comes out to be v naught upon 3 mu g. Also v is equal to v naught minus at, that is v naught minus mu g into v naught upon 3 mu g, that comes out to be 2 v naught by 3, and omega is equal to v upon r, that is 2 v naught by 3r. Also length covered in this time t will be equal to v naught square minus v square by 2a, that comes out to be 5 v naught square upon 18 mu into g. Now initial kinetic energy is half m v naught square, and final kinetic energy is half m v square plus half ICM omega square, that comes out to be 3 by 4 mv square or 1 by 3 mv naught square, and change in kinetic energy will be minus 1 by 6 mv naught square, and by work energy theorem total work done, that is also the work done by friction, will be equal to change in kinetic energy, that will be equal to minus 1 by 6 mv naught square. Here it is important to understand that since contact point is changing continuously, so work done by friction cannot be calculated easily by direct definition of work, so work done by friction will not be equal to F into L or mu mgl. Alternatively, we can use the relation LO vector is equal to LCM vector plus R vector cross P vector. Let O is the initial contact point on the ground, therefore net torque about point O, tau O vector is equal to torque of friction plus torque of mg plus torque of normal force n. Since friction force F is passing through point O, its torque will be 0, and net torque by mg and n will also be 0, therefore net torque on the system is 0, and therefore net angular momentum LO vector will be constant, which is perpendicular to the plane of motion. Therefore initial angular momentum will be equal to final angular momentum, or r into mv naught is equal to ICM into omega plus r into mv, that is 3 by 2 mvr. From here we get v is equal to 2 v naught by 3, and sometimes this method is easier than the other method. We are going to discuss rolling on an inclined plane. Let's take a look at the given figure of a uniform rigid body of mass m and having circular cross section of radius r and radius of gyration about center of mass axis is k, placed on an inclined plane of angle of inclination theta. For sufficient friction there will be no slipping of contact point and there will be pure rolling. For this case A is equal to r alpha, and for translation motion net force mg sin theta minus f is equal to mass into acceleration, that is m into a. And for rotational motion about center of mass axis, torque about center of mass is equal to F into R, that will be equal to ICM into alpha, or F into R is equal to mk square into alpha. From equation 1, mg sin theta minus mk square by R into alpha will be equal to m into a, and since alpha is equal to a upon R for pure rolling, therefore we get a is equal to g sin theta upon 1 plus k square by r square. And from the above relation, F will be mk square by r square into a, that will comes out to be mg sin theta upon 1 plus r square by k square, which is the required friction force to prevent slipping or maintain pure rolling. Therefore maximum value of friction force applied by the surface, that is mu n, must be greater than or equal to mg sin theta upon 1 plus r square by k square, or mu mg cos theta greater than equal to mg sin theta upon 1 plus r square by k square, or mu greater than equal to tan theta upon 1 plus r square by k square. Therefore minimum coefficient of friction required for pure rolling will be tan theta upon 1 plus r square by k square. Now let the body is released from rest. Acceleration and minimum coefficient of friction depends on radius of gyration k. We can see from the above relation that hk is larger than A will be smaller, and so time to cover same distance will be more and velocity will be less after covering this distance, and required minimum coefficient of friction mu minimum will be more comparatively, as we can compare for the following bodies that radius of gyration of solid sphere k is less than radius of gyration of k of disk is less than radius of gyration of k of hollow sphere is less than radius of gyration of k of ring. Therefore, time to fall down a particular distance for a solid sphere, that is t of solid sphere, less than t of disk, and that is less than t of hollow sphere, and that is less than t of ring. If we sum up the above discussion, then we can understand that for pure rolling on a fixed inclined plane, contact point will be at rest with respect to surface. That is, there will be no relative motion of contact points. Therefore, static friction will act, and static friction do not work. Therefore, mechanical energy will be conserved, and total kinetic energy gain on falling down height h will be equal to mgh. And if initial velocity is 0, then translational kinetic energy at bottom is half mv square, and rotational kinetic energy is half I omega square, that is half mk square into v square by r square, and therefore total kinetic energy is half mv square 1 plus k square by r square, or kinetic energy of translation into 1 plus k square by r square, that is equal to mgh. Therefore, kinetic energy of translation is equal to mgh upon 1 plus k square by r square. And we can see that if radius of gyration is larger, then kinetic energy of translation is comparatively smaller, and kinetic energy of rotation will be comparatively larger. We are going to discuss how pure rolling is equivalent to a pure rotation. Let's take a look at the following example of pure rolling of a rigid body having linear velocity v and angular velocity omega. For pure rolling, relative velocity of contact points is 0, therefore Vp will be equal to 0 as shown in the figure, and it is 0 if the surface is stationary. Also, we can understand that angular velocity of a rigid body is a unique quantity. For general plane motion of a rigid body, angular velocity about any axis perpendicular to the plane of motion about any point on the rigid body will be same. Since angular velocity about center of mass axis is omega, therefore angular velocity about axis passing through P will also be omega, but point P is at rest with respect to surface point Q at that instant. Therefore, axis of rotation will also be at rest at that instant. Therefore, at that instant, motion is equivalent to pure rotation about the axis through P or Q. This axis is called instantaneous axis of rotation, and if we sum up this understanding, then we can say that in case of pure rolling, motion is equivalent to pure rotation about the axis through the point of contact with same angular velocity. Now we can see that this is equivalent to a pure rotation. Then we can find velocity of any point by the relation r omega, and also the direction of this velocity in the same way as in the case of pure rotation. We are going to discuss instantaneous axis of rotation in general plane motion of a rigid body. To find instantaneous axis of rotation, we need velocities of at least 2 points on the rigid body. Let's take a look at the given figure. If velocities of 2 points are parallel, since axis of pure rotation will be perpendicular to the velocity, therefore axis of rotation will be on the line joining the 2 points, and as shown in the figure, let point O is on the axis of rotation and is at a distance x1 and x2 from the points p1 and p2. Then v1 is x1 omega and v2 is x2 omega, and v1 minus v2 is equal to x1 minus x2 omega, that is r omega, where r is the distance between the 2 points, that is x1 minus x2. Therefore, omega is v1 minus v2 upon r, and x2 will comes out to be v2 upon omega, that is v2r upon v1 minus v2, and this gives the location of axis of rotation. And if velocities of 2 points are anti-parallel, then the 2 points will be on the two opposite sides of the axis of rotation, and therefore x1 plus x2 is equal to r as shown in the diagram, or v1 upon omega plus v2 upon omega is equal to r, or omega equal to v1 plus v2 upon r. Therefore, x2 is v2 upon omega, that is v2r upon v1 plus v2, gives the position of instantaneous axis of rotation. And if velocities are not parallel, then point of intersection of perpendiculars drawn on velocities gives the location of instantaneous axis of rotation. Till now we have considered only 2 points, but also all other particles of the rigid body are fixed with respect to these particles, and these particles will also rotate about same axis, and so for the rigid body as a whole, instantaneous axis of rotation will be same. Therefore, for this pure rotation, which is for an instant, concepts of pure rotation can be used for an instant. Let's take a look at the following example based on the above understanding. In this example of pure rolling, V will be equal to r omega, and axis of rotation will be perpendicular to V and at a distance r from the center, that is the location of contact point P. With respect to instantaneous axis of rotation passing through P, moment of inertia is equal to 3 by 2 mr square, and total kinetic energy of this pure rotation is half I dash omega square, that is 3 by 4 m r square omega square, or 3 by 4 mv square. Let's see another example of rolling with forward slipping. In this case, v greater than r omega, and let b is equal to x omega. Here v equal to x omega gives the location of instantaneous axis of rotation, and x will be equal to v upon omega, that is greater than r. Also, it is worth to remember that angular velocity of pure rotation about instantaneous axis of rotation will be same as angular velocity of the rigid body, which is unique. Let's see another example of a rod which is slipping down against a wall. Axis of rotation will pass through intersection of lines perpendicular to the velocities of points P1 and P2. Let OP2 is equal to R as shown in the figure. Then V is equal to R omega and omega is equal to V upon R. That is the angular velocity of the rod at that instant. And omega is unique and will be same about each point on the rigid body. Let's take another example of uniform wire of mass 2m and length 2l representing two sides of an equilateral triangle. Velocities of two ends are v as shown in the diagram. We want to find out total kinetic energy of this wire frame. Instantaneous axis of rotation can be found easily, which is the point O. With respect to the axis passing through, moment of inertia about instantaneous axis of rotation will be twice of ml square by 12 plus ml by 2 square, and omega is equal to v upon l by 2, that is 2v upon l, which is the angular velocity of the rigid body, and therefore total kinetic energy, that is kinetic energy of pure rotation about instantaneous axis of rotation, will be half I naught omega square. Also, we can find velocity of center of mass in this case, as velocity of center of mass is equal to omega into distance of center of mass from the instantaneous axis of rotation, and then we can easily find the translational kinetic energy of center of mass, and also the remaining energy must be rotational kinetic energy about center of mass. We are going to discuss angular impulse. Angular impulse is the change in angular momentum due to large torque acting for a very short duration. Since dl vector by dt is equal to tau vector, therefore dl vector is tau vector into dt. Therefore, change in angular momentum is equal to integration of dl vector, that is integration of tau vector dt from 0 to delta t. If delta t is very small, then this change in angular momentum is called angular impulse, that is mathematically 0 to delta t tau vector dt for delta t very small. Let's take a look at the following example of a rod free to rotate about its pivoted end. A constant force F acts perpendicular to the length of the rod at a distance r from the pivot. Torque of this force is F into r. Let just after impact angular velocity is omega. Then angular impulse, that is this sudden change in angular momentum, will be equal to I omega, which must be equal to 0 to delta t tau dt or 0 to delta t f r dt. And for constant force at a fixed distance r, this will be equal to f r into delta t, that is tau delta t. Now we are going to discuss the relation between linear impulse and angular impulse. Linear impulse is produced by impulsive forces, and these impulsive forces may also produce angular impulse. Let's see the following diagram. A force F vector is acting at a point which has position vector r vector with respect to point O for a time interval delta t very small. Therefore, linear impulse delta p vector is equal to integration of f vector dt from 0 to delta t, and angular impulse delta l vector is equal to integration of tau vector dt 0 to delta t, that is integration of r vector cross f vector dt 0 to delta t. And if r vector does not change or there is negligible change during impulsive forces, then it is equal to r vector cross integration of f vector dt from 0 to delta t, that is r vector cross delta p vector, or angular impulse delta l vector is equal to r vector cross linear impulse vector delta p vector. And all this is for delta t very small. We are going to discuss rotation of a rigid body due to forces involved in collision. Impulsive forces during collision produce linear impulse, and this may produce angular impulse and change the state of rotational motion or change the angular momentum. Also, forces in collision are internal forces for the system, and if external forces are comparatively very weak, then net force on the system is net internal force, that will be 0. Also, net torque is equal to net internal torque, which is 0. So, linear momentum and angular momentum will be conserved. Let's see the following examples related with the above discussion. In this example, a uniform rod of mass m and length l rests on a horizontal frictionless surface. A particle of mass m moving with velocity v perpendicular to the length of rod collide with one end of the rod and comes to rest after the collision. We want to find out the angular velocity of the rod just after the collision. Initial linear momentum of the system pi is m into v, and final linear momentum pf will be m into vcm as shown. By linear momentum conservation, initial linear momentum pi is equal to final linear momentum pf, and therefore vcm is equal to mv upon m. And initial angular momentum of the rod about point O, that is the initial position of the center of mass of the rod, LIO is equal to mv into L by 2, that should be equal to final angular momentum LFO by angular momentum conservation principle, and that is equal to angular momentum about center of mass, that is ICM omega, plus angular momentum of center of mass about point O, that is 0. Therefore, mv into L by 2 is equal to ICM into omega, or omega equal to 6 mv upon ml. Let's see another case of the above example. Let particle stick to the rod after the collision. So what will be the angular velocity after the collision? Let velocity of center of mass of the combined system after the collision is v. Then mv equal to m plus m into v, or v equal to mv upon m plus m. Also let center of mass of the system C dash is at a distance x from the center of the rod. Then x will be ml upon 2 m plus m, and initial angular momentum about point O, LOI, is equal to mv into L by 2. And final angular momentum about O is angular momentum about center of mass C dash of the system, that is IC dash omega, plus angular momentum of the center of mass, that is x into m plus m into v. And by using angular momentum conservation, we can easily find omega. We are going to talk about rotation of a rigid body about an edge on a surface and toppling. In general, toppling refers to turn or to rotate from an unstable position to stable position. Let's see some simple cases of toppling. First, see the case of a cube topple about its edge due to an obstacle or a ridge. As shown in the figure, let a cube of mass m and side length a moving on a smooth surface encountered a ridge and collide with it. Forces during collision will have no torque about the ridge O. Since collision is for very short duration, so we can ignore torque of mg and normal force n about point O. Therefore, angular momentum about point O, LO, will be constant. So, initial angular momentum about point O, that will be mv into a by 2 is equal to final angular momentum I naught omega naught, that is ma square by 6 plus ma by root 2 whole square into omega naught. From here, we can get angular velocity omega naught just after collision. And for the cube to topple about the edge, rotational kinetic energy just after collision should be greater than maximum potential energy mgh during toppling. We are going to talk about toppling on a rough surface and on an inclined plane. Let's see the following case. When the surface is rough, a force F is applied parallel to the upper surface. Friction force will develop to prevent slipping, and normal force N will shift towards the front edge to maintain rotational equilibrium. For rotational equilibrium, torque about center C, tau C, will be 0. Therefore, F into a by 2 plus F into a by 2 will be equal to N into x, that is mgx. And applied force F will be equal to friction force F until slipping starts. For this, 2F into a by 2 is equal to mgx, and so minimum value of F to rotate the body will be at x equal to a by 2. And for this, F minimum, 2F minimum into a by 2 is equal to mg into a by 2, or F minimum comes out to be mg upon 2. So for rotation without slipping, maximum friction force mu mg must be greater than F minimum, that is mg by 2, or mu greater than 1 by 2. And so if mu less than 1 by 2, that is friction is not sufficient, then there will be slipping first, and in this case body will turn if net torque about C is greater than 0. That is mu mg into a by 2 plus F into a by 2 minus N into a by 2 greater than 0, or mu mg plus F minus mg greater than 0, or F greater than mg 1 minus mu. Once the turning starts, torque of force F about point P increases and torque of mg about point decreases, and the body will continue to rotate and later it will topple. Body will topple after a time and will not return back as torque of mg about P changes its direction in favor of toppling when line of action of mg crosses the edge. Let's see an example of toppling on an inclined plane. We can see from the diagram that line of action of mg crosses the edge at P at an angle theta greater than tan inverse A upon H, and in this case torque of mg about P will favor toppling and body will topple. We are going to discuss cycloidal path in pure rolling. Path traced by any fixed point on the circumference of a rigid body undergoing pure rolling is a cycloidal curve. Let's find the radius of curvature of this cycloidal path at topmost point of its trajectory. Velocity of topmost point v is equal to 2r omega, and acceleration of topmost point is acceleration with respect to center plus acceleration of center, and therefore tangential component of this acceleration is a plus r alpha and radial component is omega square r. Let radius of curvature at topmost point when point P is rotated from position P1 to position P4 by angle pi with respect to center is equal to r pi. For this cycloidal path, radial acceleration at topmost point will be v square upon r pi, and since ar is equal to omega square r, therefore r pi will comes out to be 4r. That is the radius of curvature of cycloidal path at topmost point. So we are going to find out the length of cycloidal path in pure rolling. Let's take a look at the given figure of a cycloidal path in pure rolling. Let point P on the circumference move from position P1 to position P2 and radius OP rotate angle theta. At this instant, instantaneous axis of rotation passes through point O and velocity will be perpendicular to OP, that should be in tangential direction. Also by geometry, OP2 let it is r dash is equal to 2r sin theta by 2, and velocity v theta at this instant is equal to r dash omega, that is 2r omega sin theta by 2. Now in dt time, path length test at this instant, dl will be equal to v theta into dt, that will be 2r omega sin theta by 2 into dt, that is 2r sin theta by 2 into omega into dt, and omega into dt will be angular displacement d theta, therefore dl will be equal to 2r sin theta by 2 into d theta. By integrating dl, we will get total path length L, that will be equal to integration of dl, that will be 0 to 2 pi 2r sin theta by 2 into d theta, that comes out to be 8r. Therefore, length of cycloidal path in one complete rotation is 8r, and you can understand that omega and alpha only say about how fast the path is stretched. We are going to find out radius of curvature of cycloidal path at any general point. As we have found in last video that velocity for angle theta, v theta is r dash omega, that is 2r sin theta by 2 into omega. Also component of net acceleration perpendicular to cycloidal path, that is in radial direction, ar is equal to a cos theta by 2 plus r alpha cos pi minus theta by 2 plus omega square r cos pi by 2 minus theta by 2. Since a is equal to r alpha for pure ruling, therefore ar will comes out to be omega square r sin theta by 2, that is actually radial acceleration at angle theta. So ar theta is equal to omega square r sin theta by 2, and therefore radius of curvature for angle theta, r theta will be v theta square by ar theta, that is 2r sin theta by 2 into omega square upon omega square r sin theta by 2. From here r theta will comes out to be 4r into sin theta by 2, and you can see that at topmost point theta is equal to pi, so r pi will comes out to be 4r. Also at contact point theta is 0 or 2 pi, so r0 or r2 pi will be equal to 0. We are going to talk about Mannheim curve and radial curve with respect to cycloidal path in pure rolling. Let's take a look at the given diagram of a cycloidal path in pure rolling. Radius of curvature of instantaneous circular path of the pure rotation about instantaneous axis of rotation, which is called the radial curve, at the topmost point on the rim of a rigid body under pure rolling is 2r. H can be seen from the diagram, and radius of curvature of path traced by a fixed point on the rim, which is called Mannheim curve, at the topmost point is 4r. Actually, Mannheim curve is the combination of radial curves at different instant of times. Thanks for watching Not for Exam, and we will see you next time.